Hello everyone and welcome back to the good stuff. We are continuing the greatest match of the 19th century. It's Paul Morphy versus Adolf Anderssen, and this is game 9 of their match. In my opinion, the most notable game and the one that you will definitely want to show to all of your friends in the bar and the library. And it is only 17 moves long, but we're gonna analyze it quite a bit longer because it's so rich, and it could have gone in any direction, but the direction that it took is the most impressive one, I would say. And I remember checking out this game when I was very young, when I only started, learning about the great players of the past, learning how to play chess. When I saw this game, it was so impressive. I tried to learn it by heart as soon as possible and try to employ this against my opponents. So it's really, really enjoyable. Let's check it out as Anderssen is now down in the match. It's first to 7 wins, if you remember, draws not counting. And if we disregard the draws, it's 5 wins Morphy, 1 win for Anderssen. So Anderssen needs to win 4 games to get back into the match, and that's not easy against an adversary like Morphy, who, as you've learned by this point in the saga, as the match progresses, he only gets stronger and stronger. So without further ado, let's check it out. Morphy with the white pieces opens with e4, and this game, especially Anderssen chooses an opening that he has not chosen so far, and that is the Sicilian defense. He plays c5, and now how will Morphy go about this? Will he go knight to f3? Will he try some sort of a close Sicilian? No, he opens the position right away with d4, the Smith-Morra gambit. We have c captures on d4, and now not going for c3, but rather knight to f3, also known as the Morphy gambit, probably due to this game. And here it's a very interesting position because black can choose to defend the pawn. It's perfectly fine for black to play e5. You cannot capture this pawn. And there's a very sad story when like I said, when I started learning chess. I entered a blitz tournament, and I had this position with white, and my opponent played e5, and I thought he was probably not very good, so I just grabbed the pawn, and he played queen to a5 check and won my knight. And I was very sad about this. I was very much embarrassed, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. Why would I grab a pawn like that? And nowadays I never just grab pawns. But okay, after knight to f3, Anderssen simply continues with knight to c6. He gives back the pawn. We have knight captures on d4, now just transposing into a normal open Sicilian, and now e6. We have the Taimanov variation. Now we have knight to b5 by Morphy, now trying to claim that d6 square for himself. So d6 now, the queen and the bishop now guard this pawn, and here bishop to f4 by Morphy, adding a third attacker to the d6 square. And as our good friend Johann Jakob Löwenthal said, this is correctly played, compelling the advance of the e pawn, which leaves the queen's pawn weak and unsupported. So here the advance of the e pawn is a must. We have to play this. So e5, chasing the bishop back. Morphy goes back, bishop to e3, and now comes f5. And again, it's a beautiful position that already gives white sort of a winning edge, and you wouldn't expect this from a position like this. I mean, if you're only starting to play chess, your coach or teacher or your friend who's a little bit better than you will often say, don't play f5, don't play f6, don't touch this pawn that should be protecting your king at some point. And here, this is one such case. So feel free to pause the video and try to find this incredible move that Morphy can play here while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this, just a gem in the position. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is knight 1 to c3. This is the move, and this is the move that Johann Jakob Löwenthal characterizes as a fine conception. And now there's so much that black can do here, but none of it is really good. Just to give you an example, if you try something like a6, okay, you want to chase away this knight, we're going to play knight to d5. We don't care about this knight. And after black captures it, now we play bishop to b6 as the knight defends the bishop. We attack the queen, and once the queen moves, regardless of where the queen moves, just knight to c7 check, and we're gonna pick up the rook on a8. So we're gonna be better here. There is a really complicated line that black can use to defend this position, and that is knight to f6. But still, it only yields a lesser position. Bishop to g5 now, and still not a good move for black here. It's very, very difficult to even approach this position because there's always bishop captures on f6. Pretty much whatever black plays, we're going to play bishop captures on f6. For example, if a6, we're going to play bishop captures on f6. Now, you can't capture with the queen because of knight to c7 check wins the rook, so you have to capture with the g pawn, but now queen to h5 check. King to d7, now we capture on f5 with check, and after the king moves, now we repeat queen h5 check, king to d7, and now knight to d5. And here you can see that all of these squares are now taken from the black king, and the ones this, let's say, knight is captured, because if you don't capture this, you really have nothing. Now we can simply play c3, take away these very nice squares from the black knight, and next we're going to play bishop to e2 to g4, and that's it. That's pretty much game, or even g3 and then bishop to h3. So you know, black will be able to play this a little bit longer, but it's going to end badly for him, whatever he plays. So after this incredible knight 1 to c3 that all of you found, we have f4 by Anderssen. This is how he decides to play this, but Morphy's reply is the same. He plays knight to d5 now, and the c7 square is now his for the taking. You don't have a way of dealing with this. Even if something like queen to a5 check doesn't really do anything, just bishop d2, and now you're attacking the queen, and also there's a double attack on the c7 square. So after this knight to d5, Anderssen says, I know, I have to continue in this style. So f captures on e3, and now knight b to c7 with check. Of course, not this knight. You want this knight to remain centralized, controlling all of these squares. So knight b to c7 with check, and now what do? There are only two squares for your king. There's d7 and f7. If king to d7, Morphy has mate in 1. Queen to g4 check is mate in 1. So king to f7 has to be played, and now Morphy has to decide whether to do something about this pawn, or just to go very aggressively, or even to capture the rook. If you really let the engine crunch the numbers here, you'll get knight captures on a8 as the best attempt from white, but the only reason knight captures on a8 is best is because if you play the move Morphy played, then it's possible to defend this, but with, you know, engine-like precision. The point is, after e captures on f2 check, king captures on f2, black can deliver queen h4 check. We're going to block this, g3. Now queen captures on e4, attacking the rook, and now bishop to g2. And here, black doesn't have anything better than, let's say, this queen to d4 check. We're going to trade here, captures, and now let's say rook h to f1, preparing to move the king, deliver check to the black king, and the white is definitely better here. So this would be objectively best, but Morphy goes for a much aesthetically more pleasing line. He plays queen to f3 check, and now Anderssen has to play with engine-like precision to defend this. He plays knight to f6, and now comes a bishop to c4, threatening all sorts of nasty discoveries. And here, as our good friend Johann Jakob Löwenthal says, the attack is now irresistible. That's why I chose to make this the title of the video. Now, the attack really is irresistible. If you're playing this game against Morphy over the board, it's very hard to imagine anyone defending this, although it is possible to defend it. I will show you how, but just to give you an example, okay, if you try to unpin, let's say you play king to g6, you do not want to remain on this diagonal, and the knights are covering all of these squares, so there's no point in playing this. If you go back, then of course you just run into knight captures on f6, mate in 1, since it's check from the knight and from the bishop. There's no escaping a double check, but just you know, keep it fun. If you try escaping via king to g6, we just deliver queen g3 check, king h6, and now queen captures on e3 with check, king g6. Now we're going to play knight captures on a8, and it's just you know, hopeless position for black. There's no playing this. So Anderssen chooses the only move that allows him to stay in the game, and that is knight to d4. He allows the nasty discovery, but he has a way of dealing with it. So Morphy, of course, goes for knight captures on f6, delivering a check by the bishop, and now we have d5. This move is key in defending this attack, because if you play bishop to e6, it's just a very you know, clean win with bishop captures on e6 check, knight captures, and now knight f to d5 with check. Opens up a discovery from the queen, king to g8, and now knight captures on e6, attacking the queen, and there's not much here you can do. If captures, we're going to capture with the king, and I mean, you're down a piece, your position is hopeless, there's no real way to enter, to bring your pieces into the game. This is completely winning for Morphy. But like I said, Anderssen plays the only move that allows black to not just keep equality, but also maybe play for something here, and that is d5. So what can Morphy play here? Morphy, of course, grabs this with the bishop. He delivers check, and now is the position that Anderssen did not evaluate well with engine-like precision. He played king to g6 here, and unfortunately, this will simply not do. You have to play king to e7, and now, as complicated as it is, it allows black to defend here. So what can we do here is white. We're just going to show it. Okay, black is attacking our queen here. We're going to play queen h5 and go for this queen to f7 check. But black doesn't care. Black will capture the knight, and after queen f7 check, king to d6 is coming. And now, okay, we're going to play knight captures on a8, but now comes knight captures on c2 with check. King e2, and now you don't even have to go for anything here. You can simply play queen to e7. And now black has a lot to play for. For example, rook, we're going to play rook h to c1, go after this knight here. And now, well, black can simply play bishop to g4 check, f3, trade queens here, captures, and now knight to d4 with check. It's a very, very strong knight, so you don't want to just leave it there. And after the king moves, let's say bishop back to d7, and it's a very, very complicated position, but black can defend. Knight to c7, you want to bring the knight back into the game, but bishop to h6 now, and it's very, very complicated, but if anyone's better here, it should be black. So this was definitely possible in the position, and it's only because of this line that Morphy's queen to f3 is not as precise as the move we've shown when we discussed queen to f3. So just grabbing the rook was more precise, but Morphy thought that if he defends this position after queen to f3 and bishop to c4, then I do not deserve the win. So here Anderssen played king to g6, but now of course the attack is overwhelming for Anderssen. Morphy plays queen to h5 check, forces a capture here, king captures on f6, and now again a beautiful position that I urge you to just enjoy, because this just doesn't happen all that often. The problem is now who amongst us would not play queen to f7 check? I mean, it's a move you play without even thinking about it, but if you do this, then it's black who's actually better, because after king to g5 there's no way to continue the attack, and well, black has all of these threats here that you simply don't want to face. Even if h4, king to h6, there's no way to continue the attack here for white. This is just incredible. If knight captures on a8, we can play knight captures on c2 check. King d1, we're going to capture on a1, and again, black is just winning here. There's nothing white can do. This bishop cannot join the attack, the knight can't join the attack, the rook cannot join the attack, and the queen can't even deliver one check. So it's just a very, very, very sad position for Morphy had he played this. But of course, Morphy did not go for this. After king captures on f6, queen to f7, although very, very inviting, Morphy says no. What about knight to e8 check? This is a move our good friend Johan Jakob Lowenthal also comments on. He says that knight to e8 check, seemingly a good move, is only in appearance, because black can give up the queen here. And what do you do now? If queen captures, then bishop to b4 check, and black reclaims the queen. So c3, we're going to capture here on e8, and after c captures on b4, just knight to c2 check. Even that is still in the position. We're going to capture the rook, rook captures on a1, and now e captures on f2, and I mean, black is up a whole rook. This is completely winning for Anderssen. So that's why Anderssen probably went to g6 instead of to the center of the board when he had this choice. But Morphy plays something completely different, and after this king captures on f6, he doesn't go for queen to f7, he doesn't go for knight to e8 check, he just plays f captures on e3. And now Morphy is threatening castles, and once this rook comes to the f file, then it's all over for the black king. This is probably what Anderssen missed, and now there's nothing Anderssen can do. He played knight captures on c2 with check. Morphy just played king to e2, and he was in this position on move 17. Yes, we are still only at move 17 that Adolf Anderssen resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. It's simply an incredible position, but you could capture the rook, you could capture the knight. I mean, you could do stuff here. You could play g6, but none of it is enough. We're going to show a few lines. For example, if you capture the knight, we're just going to play rook to f1 check, and it's actually a forced mate in 6. Rook to f1 check, the king is getting mated on the b6 square. So you have to go to e7. We're going to capture on e5 with check, king to d7, bishop e6 check, king to c6, now rook to c1 with check. And finally, after king to b6, we're going to deliver queen to b5 checkmate. Incredible stuff. And another thing, after king to e2, you could capture the c7 knight. You don't have to go after the rook, but it's not, doesn't really help you all that much. Just rook a to f1 check, or the other rook, doesn't really matter. King to e7, and now rook to f7 with check, and black loses the queen. King to d6, we're going to capture on c7, king captures, and now even, just for good measure, we're going to trap the knight as well, and, completely winning for white. There's nothing you can do here. So what's left here after king to e2? Okay, Anderssen could try something like g6, attack the queen, maybe give himself the g7 square for his king, but still just rook a to f1 check, king g7, and now rook to f7 with check. The bishop nicely covers that. And once you go here, then it's queen to rook to d7 checkmate, blocking the queen's attack towards the bishop. And now the bishop delivers check. The king has nowhere to go, and there's nothing to block the check with. So simply an incredible game. And like I said, there were many games in the 19th century that can be considered great, immortal, amazing, and we've covered most of them. The nicest ones being Morphy's opera game and Anderssen's immortal game and the evergreen games. But in this game, they faced each other, and producing such a masterpiece in a game between two of the greatest players of that era, simply, I don't know. I would say this game definitely deserves to be in every book, and just everywhere. So know this game by heart. You don't have to know all of the variations. I mean, it's 17 moves and maybe some of the nicer ones, but it will get a lot of your friends who are not maybe enjoying chess yet interested in taking up chess. So yeah, incredible game. Great stuff for us, great stuff for Morphy. Not so great for Anderssen, because now it's 6 wins Morphy, only 1 win Anderssen, and it's first to 7 wins. So we'll see what happens later on in the match. But hope you guys enjoyed this one, as this is this is my favorite game of the match, and hope I did a good job presenting it to you. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Antia in New Orleans, Pablo Mohan, Richard Yarnell, Michael Sprague, and David Kimura for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Morphy saga until it ends. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent start of your week. And I forgot to mention, not even our good friend Johann Jakob Löwenthal had anything bad to say about this game. See you soon, guys.